What makes a good horror story? Is it the dread as a heroine opens the door of an old haunted house? Is it the excitement of battling creatures that only come out in the dead of night? Or is it the darkness itself that lingers long after the story ends? Come with me. Let's find out if you'll survive to the end of the movie. Welcome to Shake, Rattle, and Record. Hey there, Shake, Rattle, and Roll fans. I know I've been away for a while and there's really no good excuse for that, but thank you for being so patient. Last week, I received a message on Facebook asking about episode 5, which really prompted me to finally get back on this project. I wanted to give a shout out to this person, but Meta deleted my page. I have no idea why. I didn't violate any terms and conditions as far as I know, but the Facebook page is gone and I can't retrieve this person's name or my page or any of the followers. So, dear listener, thank you. This goes out to you, and you can still reach me on Instagram or Twitter. Also, thank you to Tabi Tabi Pod for posting about the show last year, Campfire Stories PH for the encouraging words, and Greyweed on Insta for reminding me that episode 5 needs to be out in the world. Okay, now on to the show.
Ang aswang, ang aswang, pag naghaharana, ang gusto ay ang may asawa, paglipad, ay may gwardyang dala, ang dingding ng bahay.
One of my favorite horror movie tropes is the final girl. Very simply, it refers to the last girl or woman alive to confront the mysterious killer. In doing so, we see the conclusion of the story through her perspective. The term final girl was coined by Carol J. Clover in her book Men, Women, and Chainsaws, Gender in the Modern Horror Film. The original definition was very narrow because it came from 70s and 80s slasher films. A final girl is a part of a group of young people. She is somehow morally superior to her peers because she's a virgin or doesn't drink or do drugs. She rises to the challenge of a final confrontation and defeats the villain. She is the only survivor of the massacre, and she'll probably be killed or institutionalized in the sequel. Early examples of final girls are Sally from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Laurie from Halloween, Tina from A Nightmare on Elm Street, and Alice from Friday the 13th, all incidentally childhood staples for me. Oh, the good old days of VHS. Later, of course, final girls evolved to the likes of Grace in Ready or Not, Danny in Midsummer, and my favorite, Erin in You're Next. In Shake, Rattle, and Roll 2's Aswang, we meet a sort of Filipino final girl in the form of Portia, expertly played by Manilyn Reynes. Sort of, because she doesn't fulfill all the requirements of the final girl, but she does tick off many of the checkboxes. A spiritual final girl, if you will. Portia arrives in a small town via tricycle with her best friend, Monica, played by Ana Roses. This is Monica's hometown, and we see immediately how warm everyone is towards their guest. Among the welcoming party are Monica's mother, played by Vanji Labalan, and the town chief, played by Rez Cortez. He says, "Glad you could make it. We've been waiting for you." Portia is trusting and unassuming with a smile that lights up her face. Not a bad bone in her body. Perfect casting for a final girl. The tricycle driver, played by Richard Gomez, tries to tell Portia not to stay the night. Why didn't he tell her on the way and not when they were already there? It's not like he didn't know where they were going. I have to say, I love the looks in this film. The poofy hair, the denim vests with the applique, the oversized shades. This was released in 1990, so the fashion was still very 80s. As the tricycle driver leaves with the town chief, wind chimes made of bones hanging from the town arch rattle in the background. At dinner, the town chief tells Portia that the anticipated town fiesta will take place during the next full moon. Cue close-ups of gnawing, munching on raw red meat. Very subtle. One young boy snaps at Portia when she walks by, growling like an angry dog. She's visibly spooked now, but remains very polite. Fiestas are indeed a huge part of Filipino culture. They are celebrations typically in honor of a patron saint or a particular season and can take place over a number of days or weeks. There's Sinulog, the biggest fiesta to be celebrated in Cebu, held every year on the third Sunday of January in honor of the Santo Niño or Baby Jesus. It lasts for 3 days and involves long street parties, parades, dancing, and raves. Another one is Panagbenga in Baguio in February, which celebrates the blooming of flowers, so naturally the entire city is decked out in them. And in May, there's the Obando Festival in Bulacan, where couples dance for fertility. In Manila, we also have fiestas, but they're a little different. For example, our patron saint is San Isidro Labrador, and the activities don't really have anything to do with him. We usually have some fun sponsored activities typical of these events, like dance and song contests and Miss Gay beauty pageants, which are kind of like drag performances, and karaoke, of course. They can last up to 3 or 4 a.m., so nobody really sleeps. So, with that context in mind, after dinner, Portia asks about the quote unquote saint on Monica's wall. She says they call him Impo and they pray to him for a good harvest. I can't really tell anything about this Impo from the figure itself, just that it's hinting at a pre Hispanic origin.
Monica, anong santo to? Ang tawag namin dyan, Impo. Diyan kami nagdarasal para magkaroon ng masaganang ani. At para iligtas kami sa, alam mo na. Ano yun? Kakatakot naman. Wala yun. Halika na, matulog tayo. Marami pa tayong gagawin bukas eh.
Later, as Portia sleeps, all doubt as to the nature of the townspeople is cast away as Monica's mother floats up to her window bathed in a ghostly blue light. Monica's mother questions her about her willingness to sacrifice Portia. Monica replies that there won't be any problems. In true final girl fashion, Monica assures her mother that Portia is a virgin. The next day, Portia and Monica venture out of the village and into a clearing where two of their college friends, Ricky and Milo, are camping. Turns out, they heard rumors about the town and followed Portia there just in case. Ricky gives her a silver necklace with a crucifix pendant, pangontra sa aswang. Portia just laughs it off. How could Monica possibly be an aswang anyway? Monica even invites the two boys to the feast that night. Meanwhile, the townspeople are acting very sketchy, observing Portia as she walks around the village. Missable detail. Portia stumbles upon a rock or cement seal with symbols inscribed on it and asks the town chief what it is. He tells her to get away from there as the area is full of snakes. The symbols themselves don't make much sense to me. There's an eye of providence inside a circle with the Greek alpha and omega symbols and a dove with its wings outstretched. I'll post it on Twitter and you can tell me what you think. But preparations for the festivities are well underway, which distracts them from Portia for a little bit. She finds several suspended human-sized cages, and in one of them, guess who? The tricycle driver from earlier. He tries to tell her that they're both in mortal danger, but Monica's mother finds them and convinces her that he's just a deranged criminal and that's why he's in the cage. Portia, seemingly entirely convinced, leaves with them and goes back into the village. Because it's a little chilly, bestie Monica brings out 2 cups of tea. Portia notices that her cup was steaming just a little too much, so she distracts Monica and switches the cups. Collective sigh of relief from the audience. She's not so naive after all. Portia drinks all the tea in the cup in one go. Reassured that Portia drank the laced tea, Monica begins her villain's speech while drinking from her own cup. She tells Portia that the rumors are in fact true and she's not the first classmate she's brought to be sacrificed at the fiesta.
Gusto mong malaman ng totoo? Oo. Totoo ang mga aswang lahat ng tao dito sa baryo namin. Naalala mo ba si Christy? Kailan mo huling nakita si Christy?
Last year. Bago mo siya isinama sa...
Dito. Sa piyesta. Pinatay namin. Last year, si Christy. Ngayon, ikaw. Hindi kasi kumpletong piyesta namin kung walang alay na virgin.
As she finishes her explanation, the drug makes Monica fall asleep. Realizing she wouldn't make it very far if she tried to run away as the villagers were already on their way up to them, Portia covers the sleeping Monica with a blanket on her bed, and then she gets into the other bed. The town chief calls out to Monica, and Portia responds with a sleepy grunt to maintain the disguise. Confident that all is well, the town chief hits fake Portia twice on the head. The villagers stream out of their houses to begin the festivities, dancing rhythmically while bodies are brought out. One of the bodies is the poor tricycle driver, Richard Gomez. Monica's mother unceremoniously hacks into him to prepare him for the feast. Slowly, the villagers begin to transform into their true selves as blood is poured on the Impo statue. Portia tries to sneak out, but they soon discover that they accidentally killed Monica. They chase after her and corner her on the edge of the forest, but they can't come near her because she's at the rock with the symbols from earlier. The background music indicates that these are the remains of a church. Pretty smart way to cue the audience here. This scene ends in a stalemate. The villagers sit down to wear her out, so I actually thought it was gonna last until sunrise. But the town chief, in his Aswang form, charges at her. She picks up a conveniently located, abandoned crucifix and fights the chief. She burns his hand, and the rest try to attack, but she keeps him at bay with the crucifix. Then she makes a run for it until she stumbles upon Ricky and Milo at their campsite. She frantically explains the situation, and the three run to their van. In panic, Portia drops their only weapon. The girls come closer. Milo tries to retrieve the crucifix, but he's caught and eaten. Some genuinely good costume design and lighting here. Ricky and Portia drive away, but the town chief slash biggest Aswang manages to latch on and rip the gas tank out. Stalled in the middle of the forest, Ricky tries to repair the gas tank as the Aswang slowly approaches Portia. Ricky takes a bunch of silver balls and slingshots them at the Aswang. It's enough to distract but not kill him. Here's why Portia isn't a real final girl. She doesn't deliver the killing blow. Ricky does. He does it by slingshotting his silver crucifix from his necklace at the Aswang. The Aswang burns in agony against the van's headlights. The rest of the townspeople don't pursue them, and they manage to get away. They drive until they get to a checkpoint, where Ricky goes out the back to open the trunk for the guards. Portia realizes that one of the townspeople is sitting with the guards. She screams Ricky's name as she sees him getting killed. Then she wakes up. The checkpoint was a dream, and they're gonna get away after all. Aswang, directed by Peke Galiaga and Lore Reyes, does what many Filipino movies do. It's a classic good versus evil story where evil is an unidentified pre-colonial horror defeated by good Catholic belief and symbolism. It's implied that the Aswang have become Aswang because they worship an idol, here named Impo. Unlike the Manananggal from episode 3, this story is about an entire village corrupted and literally turned into monsters by their dark beliefs. Throughout Filipino history, we've seen examples of indigenous beliefs demonized by Spanish colonizers. Take, for example, the Babaylan, who led many of the earliest and violent resistances to Spanish colonization and Christianization. They defied the reducción or the relocation of people to the newly created towns or Bajo de las Campañas. Instead of submitting to evangelization, they urged the people to resist and preserve their own ancient beliefs and practices. This frustrated the friars who campaigned against the brujas, which is anitera maldita, evil, idol worshipper, mala mujer, bad woman, diabolica, satanic, among others. Recently, I saw a viral post about Filipino witches, and in the photo set was a babaylan, so obviously the smear campaign worked. If you want to know more about the babaylan, check out Her Story Southeast Asia. I'll link the episodes in the description box. Of course, we're not saying that the townspeople in the story are secretly good. They're not. They're straight-up evil cannibals. But horror doesn't exist outside of history. And what makes things frightening to us stems from what we've been taught to fear, in this case, our own quote unquote uncivilized past. What I really love about 1990s Aswang is how effectively they sold Portia as the kind of person who would always be willing to see the good in people. You almost expect her to either appeal to Monica's sense of friendship or scream until she gets rescued. But she's observant in the way it takes to stay alive in a horror movie. So for me, despite not being the sole survivor at the end, Portia is still a final girl at heart. Next time on Shake, Rattle, and Record, we're going straight to your living room where a young girl is watching a clown on the TV. This is your host, the lost child who plays marbles on your ceiling at midnight. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to follow Shake, Rattle, and Record on Twitter and Instagram at SRR Podcast. I'm Agassi Ramirez. Scare you next time.